Hey everybody, when you go buy a brand new power sports machine these days, there is a massive catalog of accessories available to you. But I still think one of them is way more important than the rest. That, of course, is a winch. This right here is my 2019 Polaris Ranger XP1000 Backcountry Edition long-term tester, and right there on the front is a 4,500 pound winch from Polaris. So in this video, I want to show you exactly what that 4,500 pounds means in the real world. And to do that, we're gonna winch a bunch of stuff. Of course, I'll winch the Ranger. I've got some concrete blocks to winch, a few other surprises, and then you just saw the Bulldozer pull the Ranger. Well, at the end of this video, we're gonna see if the Ranger can't pull the Bulldozer. So let's get to it. Operation of a winch is going to be the same regardless of the vehicle. Generally, there are two different settings on that winch. There's a free spool setting to allow you to pull the line off of there quickly, and then there's a locked setting which is going to lock the drive gear in place and allow you to winch it back in. Now, that's all the same here on this Polaris, but there are a few unique things here. First of all, Polaris provides you with a wireless remote for your winch. Now, you can get wired. You can actually get both as well, which is best of both worlds, but our Backcountry Edition only has the wireless, which, especially when you're working by yourself, can really come in handy. Now, another neat feature here, I'll pull this out a little bit so you can see. Oh, I gotta turn the controller on. So you gotta hold the power button down, and there it is. So you can see this little rubber stopper right here near the front of the line. This actually communicates with the fair lead. I'm assuming it's a magnet. I don't know for sure. It must be a magnet though. And when this comes in contact, or at least gets very close to the fair lead there, it's actually going to stop the winch. Check it out. Boom. So I didn't stop it. I'm still holding the in button, but the winch stopped right there. That's another really clever feature, because if you are using this by yourself and you're far away, you might not be able to know exactly when to stop. You don't want to over torque or over spool your winch, and this is going to save you from doing that. That's another clever feature here on this Polaris. One last point, then we're going to go winch something. So this winch here is rated at 4,500 pounds, and it has a 50-foot line. Now here's what you need to remember. That 4,500 pounds is only coming when the winch is at full extension, and this is true for every single winch. Why is that? Because when you're at full extension, the winch has the smallest circumference to wrap around as it spools. Then, as more line comes in, the spool ends up getting larger and larger, essentially changing the gear ratio and no longer offering you that peak power. So you have to remember, a 4,500 pound winch is not a true 4,500 pounds once the winch is near the end of its travel. All right, everybody, here comes our first winch job, and it should be easy. It's Polaris Ranger versus that hill right there, and it might not look that steep on camera, but this thing is quite steep. So we're gonna go hook up to one of those trees, and we're gonna see how the winch drags the weight of just the Ranger. Real simple. So first of all, when you reach in here, you can get to the winch and you can set it over to free spool, and that allows you to just pull the rope right out. And now we're gonna go for a little hike here and attach the rope to a tree. All right, we're set up for our first winch. Now, before we do though, let's go over the numbers. So this Ranger weighs in at 1,600 pounds dry, which means that with fluids and with the passenger, we're probably a little over 2,000 pounds. So we're at half the capacity of the winch, so it should have no issue with this pull whatsoever. And adding this little hill in here just, adds a little bit of drama as well as a little bit of extra work for the winch. I don't expect any issues though. So I got my wireless remote, the winch is set up. I already clicked it over into locked mode, which means it's gonna work for me. Let's do it. Here we go. So far, no problem. It's slowing down on the hill a little bit, but for the most part, it's just cruising along. And right there, my front passenger lifted a little bit, but of course, because it's connected, it's no big deal. My breakover angle here is just enough, thanks to my 13 inches of clearance. And we're up. Nicely done, winch. Another conversation we have to have is about this right here. My Polaris winch comes equipped with a rope rather than a steel cable, and many of Polaris's winches these days do come with ropes, although you still can get steel. And there are pros and cons to both. So first, one of the advantages to rope, in my opinion, is that it's much easier to work with. It's lighter, it's more flexible, it's easier on your hands. It's just in general going to be an easier experience when you're out in the field. Now, second of all, maybe more importantly, is safety. When a rope snaps, it just falls straight to the ground. When a steel cable snaps, one end of it is going to go shooting off and it could hit someone or damage your vehicle, and that is no good. Now, what is the disadvantage to rope? I think the biggest one is strength, and that isn't straight pulling strength. Right there, it's fine, and I would say it's equal to a steel cable. The issue is the rope can start to get cut up. So especially if you're coming around a corner, if it's rubbing on anything, the rope can get little nicks in it and eventually be weakened and break much easier than a steel cable. Luckily, Polaris is happy to sell you a new rope for just a few $100. Now, if it was my money, I would go rope every single time. Like I said, that first advantage is enough for me. It's just easier to work with. I don't feel like I need gloves to use the rope. It's much lighter. It's much more malleable. I like the rope. I've used a lot of steel cable winches, and besides the strength factor, I really don't see too many other advantages. Which one do you like better, cable or rope? Why don't you let me know in the comments below. I want to test out the functionality of this wireless controller. Now, Polaris says that it's going to work up to 50 feet away from the unit, and the rope here just so happens to be 50 feet. So let's pull it out and see if what they say is true. And here we go. That should be 50 feet. Pull it tight and she works. So just for argument's sake now, let me take 10 more steps back and see what happens. Still works. Still works. Still works. I'm gonna lose my microphone soon because the wireless distance is gonna clip. Still works, and I have to be 100 feet from it now. I'm gonna be able to not see it soon. Still works. Now, to be fair, I have nothing blocking me, clear line of sight, but this is some pretty impressive distance. Still works. Now you're gonna lose sight of me here. I'm behind these trees now. Still works. I cannot find the distance at which this stops working. Still works. Still works. Still works. And still works. Coming back now. All right, that has to be a good 150 feet, no doubt about it. I can't really imagine a situation in which you'd be so far away from your vehicle while winching it, but still good to know that the wireless remote, I should say, does work at a long distance. Now, spooling up a winch is a kind of a long, slow, arduous process, and Polaris knows that, so they actually came out with something called rapid rope recovery. It's a setting on the winch which actually recovers the rope 5 times faster than normal speed. However, our unit doesn't have it, sadly, so I cannot demonstrate the rapid rope recovery to you, but it does sound like a nice feature considering I'm going to be standing here for the next 2 minutes while this winch slowly brings itself in. Now, another point when you're spooling up your winch, you want to keep pressure on the line. You don't want to spool up a loose line because then you're going to get a really loose roll, and that's not going to be good. It can cause slippage, among other things. Now, B, you can see I'm walking back and forth here. It is important to try to spread the spool evenly on your winch. If you just use it and you're not here to do something like this, it ends up spooling kind of, fatter in some spots and skinnier in others. You're gonna get a better experience if you just walk it back and forth like this and try to make sure that the rope is going on that spool as evenly as possible. So now it's time for the water test, and we're taking this Ranger back into the lake. So Polaris says that this winch should work totally submerged. And as you'll see here in my first video, the winch didn't work for me when it was totally submerged. So this is when my wireless remote comes in handy here, because I need to winch. Come on, Winchy. okay, or not. So I want to go in here and test it again, and I actually have a hunch. It's been working perfect for me all day, so let's drive in the lake and see what happens. I've got the winch up here with me to make sure that this automatic stopper is not my issue, and right now, the winch is working. So here we go, into the lake, and I want to go until the winch is entirely underwater. All right, let's see right there. Still got a winch. It's totally underwater? Not quite?
Could be deeper.
Still got a winch. Still got a winch. Still got a winch. It's still working. And that thing is totally submerged right now. And still got a winch. So I was worried maybe that the signal couldn't get through the water to the winch, but that does not seem to be the case now, does it? And still got a winch. So there you have it. It does seem like their claim of an entirely sealed up winch is true. And yes, I did have to change my pants for this one. How about now? Still got a winch, man. That's impressive. And there is none of it above the water. It's totally under. So there's no doubt that it's doing what Polaris said it would do. Well, I think that's it for this test. Let's get out of the lake. Okay, everybody, we've got our next winch test set up, and this one should give us the opportunity to discuss the shortcomings of a winch. What you see right there is a 4,000-pound concrete block. We use these concrete blocks for pickup truck testing, for payload, and for weight on a trailer. But today, we're gonna see if I can't pull it. So you know what? In theory, I should be able to pull this block. It's only 4,000 pounds. Here's the issue. Look at all the surface area that block has and all the friction that it's gonna create. Now, when we go over and look at the Ranger, here's the problem. Sure, the Ranger can do it technically because the winch rating is up there, but it only has 4 contact points with the ground. And that's where the tires hit. So just not a big piece of contact to create the proper friction to be able to pull something like this. Now, I haven't even tried yet, so maybe it will pull the block. I'm not exactly sure, but we're gonna find out. I've parked quite a ways away so I get maximum power out of this winch, and I'm gonna put it in park, sit in it, and see what happens. Let's go. Let's go ahead and bring the winch in and see if this Ranger can pull a 4,000-pound concrete block. Okay, so far no movement out of the block. The Ranger is just hunkered down. Yep, the block is not moving, but the Ranger is. It's dragging me across the gravel. Now that's another thing we gotta talk about, is the surface you're on makes a big difference. I'm here on gravel, so I'm not getting maximum amounts of traction. If I was on pavement or something like that, it would be even better. Although even good pavement, I don't think I'd be pulling this block. So this is just an example of the things you need to consider when you are winching something. It's not just as simple as looking at the numbers. All right, we tried the 4,000 pounder. It was no good. Now we're gonna pull that guy right there. That's a 2,000 pound block. Let's see if we can do 2K. Okay, everybody, same deal as before. The Ranger is in park. I'm gonna keep my foot on the brake, and let's see if we can't pull a 2,000 pound block. Now, once again, All of those things are coming into play, friction and how much contact with the ground you have. But I'm confident that we can do 2 grand. Let's see. Oh, the block's lifting. The block is moving. There's the Ranger though. Yes! Yes! I finally found the point. We're moving her now. Oh, we're gonna flip it. All right, I gotta go rescue my GoPro before I flip a 2,000-pound concrete block onto it. And take a look, you can see the dirt berm right there that the block was pushing up. So as I mentioned, yeah, you're not just pulling this weight, you're also pulling all of that weight of the dirt and stones that build up in front of this thing. Okay, now we're all set up for the big winch. So I've got the Ranger here hooked up over there to our Bulldozer. Now that Bulldozer weighs 13,500 pounds, way more than what the winch is rated for. But like I was saying earlier, not every winch situation is created equal. With those concrete blocks, it was this big surface area dragging along the ground and they were building up dirt in front of them. Whereas now I'm doing 13,000 pounds, way more than the rating, but all I'm really doing is turning the wheels. So we're really testing the bearings on that Bulldozer. Although of course there still is a massive amount of dead weight that we're gonna be pulling. So I'm gonna get in the Ranger, put it in park, hold the brake, and hopefully she moves. Let's see what happens. Remote's turned on. Let's see what happens. Come on, Bulldozer. Oh, she's moving! Look at that, the Ranger's struggling and it's hunkering down. You can feel the front suspension really getting pulled into the ground, but I'm not moving at all. Nicely done, Ranger. And yeah, this just really demonstrates, like I said, that you need to look at every single winch situation individually. You need to understand what you're winching and how it's going to interact with the ground, what kind of friction it's going to create to be able to decide whether it's even worth trying to winch or not. But in the case of Bulldozer in neutral versus Ranger backcountry, the Ranger backcountry is certainly winning.
Hey, how come my dozer's uncovered? What the hell have you got it hooked up to?
I needed to use it for dead weight to pull something with my winch. I'm winching stuff.
And so you're going to pull the Bulldozer? This
of course.
For one of your little videos.
Yeah. TFL's important, man.
Remember the last time you borrowed my stuff, the Yamaha? You were doing a video and you said, yeah, I'll wash it. Well, guess what? It's still all muddy. If you got nothing else to do, go power wash it.
All right, Dad. I have a few other things on winches I want to talk about. First of all, pricing. What are these things worth? Well, right now I'm going to go through a couple different brands and you're going to see right here on the screen what this Polaris winch is worth. We'll take a look at what a winch is worth at Kawasaki. At Can-Am. So adding a winch to your unit isn't exactly cheap. You're looking at between $1,000 and $2,000, but I say that it's worth it every single time. And the reason is simple. Once you get stuck, you can't just leave your unit there. You have to get it out. And if I have my choice between digging it out or using a winch, of course, it's winch every time. The other alternative is getting someone else to pull you out with their machine, but A, there isn't always someone else there, and B, you run the risk of getting someone else stuck. The winch is a much simpler, much more hassle-free solution. Now, if you're making this decision yourself and you can't quite decide, just think about your unit stuck in the mud without a winch. Think about how angry you're gonna be in that moment, how frustrated you're gonna be, and then make your buying decision. Because if you really think about it, yeah, in that moment, you would pay a lot of money to have a winch. So be forward thinking, get yourself a winch, you will not regret it. there you have it. I think I've shown that this Polaris 4,500 pound winch is formidable. It has some clever options, and then just in general, that a winch is a must-have accessory on any ATV or side-by-side. Now guys, that is it for this video. Make sure you go in the comments, let me know what you think about winches in general, this Polaris winch. Maybe you have a winch on your machine. Maybe you've been really stuck and the winch saved your life. Please share your stories. I want to hear them. And as always, while you're down there, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and then come right back here to TFL Off-Road for the latest news, views, and real world reviews. Now, if you'll excuse me, I got more winching to do.